day for a swim. Oh my God. Oh my God. Beautiful day for a swim. Oh my God. Oh my God. Beautiful day for a swim. Oh my God. Oh my God. Beautiful day for a swim. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, your podcast for business support, helping you support your networks and customers better, smarter, and faster. Yes, that was the intro for the show this evening, folks. We are in the midst of Hurricane Ian in 2022. It has missed the South Florida area. I am here in Fort Lauderdale. The storm is currently in the middle of the state, making its way across. And instead of doing a Florida Man story today, I thought I would show you what Florida Man is doing today. All of those pictures from today across the state of Florida. But tonight, it is not about Florida Man. It is about the wonderful, the all-in-one, all-encompassing RMM, PSA, do almost everything platform and tool, Syncro. And once again, I am joined by the CEO. You heard her a couple of weeks ago on episode, I believe it was 437. Emily Glass is in the house. Emily, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? I'm glad you're safe.
Thank you very much. And very nice background and Syncro logo, I must say there.
Thank you.
And I had been promoting a special guest, and some of you were able to figure it out, partially because Syncro said it from the very beginning, and I would add the name as the days went along. But the co-founder and chief channel man, Ian Alexander. Ian,
hey, how's it going? Nice to see you again.
It's going good. Now, you also have a fantastic background. Now, is that the actual 3D octopus that is part of your logo inspiration?
Yeah, we got a bunch of new Zoom backgrounds, team.
That's our pet. Ian, don't underplay it. We have him in a big aquarium. We feed him really well. He's that color. He's color changing,
Oh, okay. All right.
We're going to have a naming contest. Actually, we named him Uncle Marv. Do you know that he has a name?
I believe you said it last time, which I didn't question you on the name because you were badgering me. But I believe you named him 8.
Yes. Wow. Good memory. I didn't even remember announcing it, and you remember what it is. I'm impressed.
You said it. It was brief, but listen. Wow. First of all, I had to go back through the tape because you accused me of something that I knew I did not say. So
if this is how we're starting, like 5 minutes in, it's going to be a long hour.
Yeah, yes, it is. So for those of you joining us, this is the live show for the IT Business Podcast. If you head over to itbusinesspodcast.com, you will see that this is both an audio and a video podcast. We are streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and the Facebook. So you can always see us Wednesdays at 8 p.m., or you can catch the show anytime after that, because we keep the show on the internet. And as you know, nothing gets erased from the internet. I want to say hello to people joining us from all three networks, including somebody in the chat, Eric Anthony. Hello. So we will go to the chat from time to time if there are questions. And if I have my notes correct, you guys have chosen to stay for a post show where the harder questions will come that we will not air on the live show when it comes out.
We're game. It's all good.
Okay. So I mentioned that we did the show before, Emily, and we basically introduced you to my community. Of course, you've been CEO for, I don't know the exact number, but it's been almost a year.
Yeah.
And all the things that you've been doing, promoting the brand and talking about the changes and stuff. And of course, Ian, you are one of the co-founders and the reason that this actually exists. So
I'm guilty of that.
Yes. And when we last spoke, Ian, because you went into hiding after I went over to Podnuts Pro, and after I selected my RMM at the time, SolarWinds, you decided to come up with Syncro and started that. That's not the reason you started Syncro.
I did it for you, Mark.
You did for me. And it's taken all these years to get me back, right?
Yeah.
So Emily, we introduced you. We talked about some of the changes. Of course, the branding is one of those things that we talked about, and we will talk about some of the other things here coming up on the show. But Ian, since you're here, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to?
Yeah. Okay. So I guess way back when you and I first met, I was CEO of Repair Tech, right? And we had Tech Suite and Kabuto. We ended up in 2017 merging with Repair Shopper, and together we launched Syncro. So since then, I've just been working on Syncro, building that out, building the team, and it's been a lot of fun. Been learning a lot myself and having fun.
Right. Now, when I remember, you were still heavily involved in a lot of the actual coding, engineering, all that stuff. Have you started to step back from that a little bit and handed that off to, the younger, more hungrier kids, or are you still?
Oh, he's calling you old now. We're at 8. We didn't even get past 8.
Yeah, I'll say it's a good thing that I don't write code anymore for everybody, for me, for our customers, for our team. I used to be all over the place. My background's in computer engineering, so I did stuff on the Windows side, I did stuff on the web side, and then I was also doing like sales, marketing, customer success, all kinds of internal things, product things, lots of stuff. I was doing QA. So yeah, I'm doing a lot less of those things that I shouldn't be doing anymore because I was an okay dev, but I went fast and wasn't that careful. So.
What were you starting to say there, Emily?
Oh, I said he was doing anything that needed done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that how all of us get started?
Absolutely. No task too small.
That's right. Scrum Master.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know what kind of show I was getting into. No, but seriously, Ian, I mean, I wasn't there all those years ago, but Ian's really a creative force in the business. Obviously, there were other founders too. So not to say that they didn't have an equal part. Everybody, sort of pitched in, and we had a great sort of founding team. I hear the stories about those days. But Ian, continues to be a creative force in the business. He loves interacting with our partners. He knows everything about the product. And he was away for a little leave recently, and he came back, and it's been like really wonderful to have him back in the business. He's always energetic, optimistic, and I'm enjoying working with him. I don't know if the feeling's mutual, but
no, it's mutual, and it's been fun. Yeah, I was out on parental leave, and came back in a new role. So I'm in a channel chief role, which is great because I think before I was chief operating officer, which was purposely ambiguous because I was doing all those things that needed to have happen. Channel chief is probably a better title for me, just because it's probably more specific to what I should be doing, which is hanging out with folks like you and doing strategic partnerships and all things customer facing. So it's been a lot of fun.
Does that mean that we're going to see you out on the road now?
Yep. I used to go to conferences, but it was like a very small part of what I did, and I'm gonna try to get back to doing that. So yeah, we just went to DataCon, and I couldn't make that, but I do plan on being at more conferences and hanging out.
Any in the near future that we might want to know about?
I don't know yet, but I will know.
All right. Because
Yeah,
I'm
Syncro
waiting
in general has been more back out on the road. So you mentioned we were at DataCon, we were at TechCon Unplugged in September, and we have a few other shows coming up towards the end of the year, but still, figuring that out. Maybe, I don't know if Ian will be there. If you want to meet Ian, though, you could tell yourself he might be there, and you should go. You should go.
I've got a couple of conferences I'm holding that I have, reservation for, so I may wait to see what that announcement is before I make my choice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Jesse, are we allowed to reply to chat people? I can't actually chat, but am I allowed to address?
Yeah, you can address them. And as soon as we got to a nice breaking point,
okay,
I was going to address one of these because we talked about the name, and one of the first questions is why 8?
Yeah, so I can answer that because it was my idea.
Oh, really?
There are very few things that I not veto, but I decide.
Wait.
I'm quite democratic.
Veto? Did you veto other names?
Maybe. Okay. But I was very passionate about naming the octopus. I think it's had a name, Octo, as Ian informed me in the past. It's kind of a name, I guess. It's a nickname of octopus.
It's very unofficial.
And with the new logo being sort of the infinity symbol, which represents sort of continuous innovation, continually improving, we actually named it 8, like the number 8, which is
like the infinity sign sideways.
Yeah, there you go. So there's a reference to the logo, and then there's also obviously an octopus has 8 tentacles. So there's a bit of.
Can I ask what names you vetoed?
Oh, I don't remember. That's how Ollie
doesn't really matter, does
Ollie
it?
was a finalist. I didn't really like. I kind of wanted a gender neutral name.
Okay.
Was kind of important. And yeah, Ollie. We had Norton. I don't know. My kids wanted it to be.
Yeah, Norton was a no-go.
No, Norton. No. So
Norton didn't sound right at all.
Yeah.
All right, and we have listeners coming in from Scotland, Pittsburgh. And a kudos to you, Emily. I hope that's not for naming the octopus 8.
Or for vetoing. Like I was saying, I don't usually. I'm quite democratic, but for the octopus, sometimes for things that just need to get done, I'm like, let's go.
That didn't sound democratic at all.
You can vouch for me. Usually, I'm a bit more.
No, Emily doesn't veto many things.
All right. So, Ian, why don't we start the show with telling us about some of the things that are kind of up and coming with Syncro. And of course, I had to tell Emily, last show that I watch from afar and I keep notes because I keep waiting for the right time to possibly make that jump. So let's get gung-ho with some of the things that might tip the odds.
Yeah, I mean, for those of folks that haven't heard from us in a little while, we've been busy continually releasing new stuff, and all that's just based on MSP feedback. So over the last year, one of the big things was policy inheritance. We had a pretty simple policy inheritance feature set that needed a lot more robustness, and we completely revamped that, and it's pretty awesome. And so we released that. That was really cool. New Mac agent. Additionally, we dramatically expanded OS patching. So before you couldn't block patches, for example, you couldn't block certain categories. The reporting wasn't good enough. So we improved OS patching, and I think now it pretty much can compete with anybody. So that feels pretty good. Enhanced VAT. So VAT for the folks in the UK, VAT was not ideal. So we improved that and released that to the UK. And we're also going to roll that out to some other locales, New Zealand, Australia, etc. soon. So that's cool, solving some problems there on the invoicing side for those folks. A couple other things. We like to pride ourselves on releasing things often based on feedback from folks. So we just have made sure that we've had a regular cadence of what we call delighters, which are small little features that make a big difference. Have just had a regular cadence of those, and you can check those out on our website. Also, one of the big changes, I think, just with especially a lot of influence from marketing folks, but then also product, et cetera, is we're trying to tell the community a little bit more often about what we're working on. So one example of that is we have what we call the Syncro Skimmer, which is a newsletter that we send out once a month. Has industry news, but also just some updates from us. So trying to make it easier to stay in the know about what's going on. We do one of the things in the past, like this flip side of the coin, is like we release things often and quickly, but then people are like, I didn't know you even released that. So we're trying to balance out the release cadence with also keeping people informed. So we have a new Syncro official community forum, for example, where we post announcements, and that way there is a Facebook group and there's a Reddit subreddit, but some people don't want to be on those social media platforms. So we now have an official community forum that's hosted on Discourse that anybody can join and hang out. We post announcements there as well. So new branding, which we've been talking about. That's a lot of fun, a lot better. And then releasing a lot of new resources on our website. So there's now a whole resource hub on the website that's helpful for MSPs, all kinds of interesting information there that hopefully helps them grow their business, solve problems, et cetera, that we hope to continue to add to. So that's all stuff like we've shipped already. There's a lot of other smaller things, but those are some of the things that I thought to highlight.
So you talked about getting out this information of when you get stuff released, you should tell people.
Yeah.
And, I just found out, 2 weeks ago that you guys did the OS patching.
Yep.
But understand that that's actually been out for a few months.
Yeah, it's been out for a little while. And it's been going really well. So that's been a big release.
So how many things do you think have been released that people are just now finding out about? Because here's the reason I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Of course, we always hear, MSPs and companies are always looking to find, I got to lower my cost, and, my clients cut back during COVID, so I got to cut back. And, Syncro was one of the products that people, I believe the right word is ditched to come to Syncro to save money and stuff. But now they're looking at, okay, I need this and I need that, and this integration isn't there, so maybe I want to jump ship or something. But there may be some stuff that's out there that people just don't know. And, like me, I don't have the product, so it's not like I can say, oh yeah, go here.
Yeah, I think that there is a tremendous amount in the platform that goes underutilized in just because people don't necessarily know it's there, or they haven't gotten into the platform enough to figure it out. I keep track of what all the questions people ask, like on Facebook, Reddit, wherever. And I see a lot of questions that are like, how do I do this? Or I realized I couldn't do this in Syncro, but they actually can. So we've been doing a good job of, I think, updating KBs and trying to get better at release notes and stuff like that. I think in recent times, we've gotten a lot better at that. I think it's more like the stuff we released like 3 years ago. That's the stuff people don't know about, but it's been in the platform for a long time, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, I think one of the things too, so for me, and I'll be completely open and honest, one of the things that I looked at when I, every year I go through a process where I do look at stuff. I don't just make a change whenever, but I looked at the fact that I like the product having as much built in as possible.
Yeah.
And a lot of what Syncro has done is integrated with a lot of stuff, even though you have an RMM and a PSA together, which is probably the core of most stuff. There's a lot of other features that are really just, integrations or add-ons. So you're going to go to a different portal and stuff like that. So I assume that that's one of those big questions that comes up all the time is, are you going to bake any of these things into Syncro?
Yeah. And it's like kind of classic question of like build, buy, or integrate.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like the core stuff, which you mentioned, RMM, PSA, that kind of thing, and the magic in between the two. And that's where we typically definitely invest a lot of our time. There are some things that don't make any sense for us to build, right? Like I wouldn't build an antivirus. That's just not our core competency, right? There's a lot of great antiviruses out there. We can integrate with those. So sometimes it's very clear, like we would not build an antivirus. And then there's, some gray area and we have to figure that out. But a lot of the time, if it's just core PSA, RMM stuff, we probably should build that.
So we've got a question already in the chat that I was going to try to wait and ask, but I'll bring it up here since we talked about that. As an MSP that is heavily invested in our PSA already, I'm still interested in alternative RMMs. How well does your RMM integrate with the other major PSAs?
Should I take this one?
Yeah, you take it and then I'll.
We don't.
She said all the hard questions go to you.
Yeah, I mean, my personal view is that the older way of doing things, like the traditional way in the past, was like separate RMM, separate PSA, and then you integrate the two, right? But the way Syncro is built is as one platform from the ground up. It doesn't really make a ton of sense to use it with a separate PSA or a separate RMM because you lose a lot of the magic that you get by having all of that data in one place. There are a lot of products out there on the market that only exist because the RMM and the PSA are separate, and you don't really need those things when you have them in one place. So as an example, like a lot of the billing stuff you can do in Syncro with automated reconciliation and stuff, because we know, okay, here's all the RMM agents you have. Here's what's installed on all those computers. You want to bill against, say, Office 365 or I don't know, really any antivirus that's on the computer, any installed program. That data is all in there, and you can just automate the recurring invoices and update the quantities and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of really cool things you get by having that in one place. So we are not really the right solution, I think, if you want a separate RMM.
Yeah, I was gonna sort of echo that and say that for Jesse that it's actually a debate or a topic that we debate internally every so often because we do know that there are people out there that do have the separate products and would probably pick Syncro for their PSA or their RMM if we could somehow bundle it separately. And so far, yeah, we've come to the same conclusion every time this comes up that no, we really don't want to decouple them, and that the magic is, as Ian said, sort of with having the two together. And that's really one of the core values that Syncro offers. Of course, we do have people that use Syncro and other tools and find that Syncro kind of complements something or allows them to have a backup tool or they have a secondary tool and Syncro is their primary tool. So we do have people that are using multiple RMMs, for example, Syncro and maybe something else as well for different use cases. But yeah, we don't really have any integrations off the shelf other than to ourselves in the fact that it's one platform.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of true back when you started this, Ian. There weren't many other tools that were actually integrated PSA RMM together. Yep. So that was one of the benefits of going with your product for a little bit of investment. You could have the best of both worlds, per se, at least integrated in one package.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that's still true today. I mean, I think, the other thing but besides the functionality and the fact that they're tightly integrated is just sort of the unique pricing and sort of the package that we're able to offer. So it is by user, it's unlimited endpoints. And so we're really sort of focused on the value that every person and that your business is getting out of Syncro rather than counting how many instances or how many endpoints or how many this or that tickets, whatever other things you're using. We really try to grow with an MSP and make it a really affordable platform to start with if you're just starting out as one user, and then growing with you as you add and grow your business. So that's another advantage to having the two things and the platform that kind of does it all for you.
All right. So I'm going to pull up a question that I did prep you for, so I don't want you to sound surprised. But I'm going to go to my I'm going to go to the message that got sent to me. That let's see, where is it?
While you're doing that, I'll just I'll fill the time for you like we
Okay.
planned, Marv. And I'll just say that you played the Florida videos at the opener, and I just wanted to express that for whoever's watching, whether it's live or taped, that we have a lot of partners in the area. We have a lot of employees that live in the Florida area who are hunkered down and going through the storm right now, and sort of our thoughts and wishes go out to them. Hopefully they're safe or they're in a safe spot for the time being, and their family and friends are safe. And it's a tough time to go through, but we hope everybody sort of makes it through okay. It's a little bit of a scary time for us at Syncro. We have some team members there as well, so we know what it's like. But just wanted to put that out there.
All right, thank you for that. So here are the questions. I got two, and the first one, verbatim: when can we expect an upgrade to their 1990s looking UI? They seem to be updating everything but the stuff we have to stare at 8 hours a day.
First of all, the 1990s were a really good year, right, Ian? Really good decade, I should say.
Yep. Jordan Bulls. There's a lot I like about the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, you went with the Bulls reference there. Okay.
They won six of the 10. So.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, you go in on all that. This is working well for us.
All right. So, first of all, I'm a little upset that they didn't call it clunky, because that's what most people say. Okay. I will fully admit that the UI can use a lot of work. We recently hired quite a few people who are UI UX specialists, and we have every intention of putting a lot of work into that. As I think like any entrepreneur can, or like just business owner can know, it's like a matter of resources, right? And I feel like there were a lot of other things that were up next and higher priority than the UI up until now. I would argue OS patching, for example, is a lot more important. If you can't keep your clients' patches up to date and do that well and not cause them outages, like who cares what the UI looks like? So I think there have been a series of more important things. UI is obviously important. People are living in the application every day. We want to make that a joyous experience. But it's felt like there were higher priority things before that. Now it's feeling like, we should do a lot of stuff with UI UX. So we have already publicly said that we're going to start working on that. I gathered some early adopter volunteers to kind of look at some of the stuff we're working on. So that stuff's coming. And I'm sorry that you've had to live with it for this long.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was considering joining Syncro and signed up for a free trial myself early last year, was playing around with the product, I actually kind of liked the UI, although I can recognize that it does look dated, and it's not a place that we've invested a ton, like Ian says, in the past. In terms of engineering, it's functional, and as like a Control F kind of girl, I kind of actually appreciated that it was very text-based and kind of easy to navigate, and so I kind of liked that and was just impressed with the depth of functionality. However, we do have factions or different sort of points of view on this, even in our own partner base or prospects. As we're talking to them, some people are like, "Great, it's really easy, like I could look around, they love that we didn't spend engineering time on that and that we're building other stuff." And then there's definitely a contingent that finds it not as pretty as maybe some alternatives. I think where we land is like, we want it to be functional, and that's where I think we're going to focus. Yes, we'll make it prettier as we go, but really, like, is it usable? Is it consistent? Are the interactions sort of consistent across the different pages? Does the sort make sense? Those are the kinds of feedback that I hear that I really want to fix, because those are the things that cost partners time, right? Where we invested design resources in like the logo and the brand, that was like where I think we invested our time, a little bit more time to make it pretty without engineering, right? And now that we're getting around to the UI UX and the product, I think you're going to see a lot more just consistency, ease of use focus. I don't think you'll see like like the prettiest UI out there, or at least that's not my goal when we look at improving that, although it will definitely improve.
Well, as somebody who likes to do a good presentation, and I know I look good pulling off the purple and doing the hair just nice, sometimes it's all about not just function, but speed as well. And I like a UI that is fast, intuitive, and works. And if it gets slowed down because the check boxes have to be ovals and stuff like that, that would annoy me more. So my 2 cents, even though I'm not using it.
Thanks.
Someday.
We'll take that under consideration.
And no comments on the shirt at all. Okay. I see how we are. Okay. Let me get to question 2 that this person asked. When can we expect single sign-on and IP whitelisting? Simple security steps that a lot of people feel this platform is missing. Now, I don't know what he means by a lot of people, but again, I read it word for word.
You or me?
You go.
Yeah. We've been talking about it. We want to do it. It's like on the probably like short list for the roadmap. So definitely an issue in terms of like lots of people asking for it. And we're seeing a lot of folks needing that kind of thing, and security is important. So
now, am I understanding that they're talking about when you're doing the integrations, if you're going to one dashboard to the other, is that what they're talking about, or is there something more specific?
Basically, right now, when you go sign up for Syncro account, you create a Syncro account. You can't do the like login via Office 365 or login via Gmail or that kind of thing. And if we enabled them to do that, then there are a couple cool things. Number one, it gives them all kinds of security controls over in that other solution. So say Office 365, you could do all the IP whitelisting and all kinds of crazy stuff because that would be your login method, right? And so you get immediately all kinds of security measures through your Office subscription. So that's the main benefit. Obviously, it's a little easier. You just click a button. You don't have to enter your password again. But that's lesser so the value.
Okay. Emily, you got anything more technical to add to that?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks, so.
All right. So I'm just checking the chat here. No questions there. So let's move on to, we talked about new releases. And we were going to have some screen sharing time. Do we actually have anything to screen share? Is there anything that looks pretty enough to bring on the screen?
I mean, we could, but we didn't want to like give a sales demo. It's not really our shtick. So we're happy to show you stuff if you have questions, or if there are questions about particular features we talked about. We could talk about what we are working on now. So
before you do that,
about what we released, but we can talk about what's in progress.
Well, let me do this. Let me ask a question first that I wasn't quite sure. I had heard you maybe a month ago talking about making the change from Heroku to AWS.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I didn't catch that entire conversation.
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you what exactly happened that made you guys want to make that change? Because I'll be honest, AWS doesn't really stand out to me as something you want to build on if you want to be fast and robust and change because you're tied to the Microsoft ecosystem. But I may be wrong, and you'll tell me why, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I'll start. You add. How about that?
Okay, go.
So I think, we've been on, Heroku has been our home for a little while. I think it's a great platform for a startup to start out. It's got a lot of tools, a lot of built-in abstractions. It makes things really easy to get started with. The flip side of that's kind of the pro. The con is as you grow, and as Syncro's grown, we've grown a lot. We kind of started to stretch the limits of scale on Heroku and also control, right? So what you gain in sort of abstraction and ease over time, you actually want to get in and have more control and tune and more settings, and you can't do that. So we basically outgrew our original turtle shell, if you will, and it was time to sort of upgrade and get a new shell that would allow us to just grow just the traffic, the amount of data that we have on the platform, for one thing. And then secondly, have all sort of the security controls, configuration, the settings, the optimization, all of that to give ourselves like a home that we could grow into long term. So from a vendor lock-in perspective, or, is it a Microsoft issue? I don't think our partners won't really see a difference in terms of functionality. Like there's no new restrictions that comes with this from our partners' perspective. This really is just a cloud hosting decision that we've made for the longevity of Syncro that allows us to grow. We really were reaching the limits of Heroku. So it wasn't even really so much a choice to stay or go. We had to go. It was time, it was beyond time. And we've already seen performance improvements as a result of the work we've done so far there. And we're excited to sort of continue to grow into that. And I don't know, Ian, if you wanted to add anything more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was a good summary. The only thing I'd add is that Heroku is built on top of AWS anyway.
Yeah.
And so basically you're like, if you were to be a startup and you were to go pay Heroku, you'd basically be paying a little bit extra to get them to basically be your DevOps team. But then you don't get full functionality in AWS. So it's cool when you're early stage because you don't have to worry about like patching a server or I don't know, that kind of thing. They take care of that. It's like managed hosting. It's maybe a good analogy. But as we've scaled, it's just a huge hindrance. So moving to AWS, which hosts 33% of the internet or something like that, which is even more than like Azure, which I think is only 21%. So yeah, AWS is pretty much the de facto standard for any kind of large scale engineering application. So we just have all the options at that point, and the scalability. So
all right, well, that makes sense to me now. Because if you'd have just said, well, Heroku's a layer on top of AWS, and we're just removing the layer so we can go direct, that'd have made perfect sense.
There you go.
Yep, should have explained it that way.
I'm a simple kind of guy. All right, well, so go ahead, Ian. Tell us what's new and what we should be looking forward to.
So the Heroku to AWS migration is a big one.
Okay.
So I'm glad you brought that up. You should see some of the impacts that users will see immediately are performance improvements. So you should see some of the pages load faster, for example. But then all kinds of like long-term stability, scalability. It'll make it easier for us to have observability so we can see when an issue is happening, what's happening, and why. That kind of thing will be a lot easier on AWS. We're working on some cool stuff with ticketing, so rich text and images. So it'll make the ticketing experience a lot better, both for the end user and for technicians. Customer and technician efficiency reports. So reporting is one of the things that larger MSPs continually ask for more of because they want more insights into what's going on in their business. And so we've got customer and technician efficiency reports coming out, which should be really, really cool.
Do you have examples of those you could show?
Maybe.
I knew there was a 50-50 chance.
Come back to me in a second. I will see if I have examples.
You thought the audience was going to put you on the spot and said it was me.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll see if I have an example I can show.
All right. While you're doing that, Emily and I will just chat amongst ourselves.
Go for it.
Oh, he wasn't done with the list. So whenever you find that.
Oh, do you want to continue the list?
I can continue the list while you look for that.
Go for it, Emily.
Okay. Yeah. So I know you were starting to say we have Stripe ACH support coming out, as well as reporting the solution that we did for VAT for the UK for our Australia, New Zealand friends. So we have partners all over the world. So we want to make their VAT experience better as well. Like we said, we're focused on also UI UX improvement. So you'll see those rolling out over the rest of the year. And, we continue to focus. We're doing the Heroku migration, to AWS, but also just platform reliability improvements. Beyond that, there are some issues that have been reported over time that we really, really want to clear up and make sure that the platform is 100% reliable. We don't love it when our partners have to create tickets or have to wonder if something worked or not. That is not not a sustainable way to operate. So we need to make sure that they can trust the platform 100%. So we're investing a lot in sort of the platform stability and reliability going forward. Did you find something, Ian? Did I talk long enough? Should I talk longer?
I have like something, but the data's not perfect in the demo account. But it's okay.
Up to you. Just, if you want to throw it in the share button, I can add it in here.
All right, here. Okay. Can you see this?
I can see it, and we're bringing it up now.
All right. So this is an example. This is a demo account that our sales team uses, so it's not perfect. But as an example here, you can see ticket efficiency by technician. So I can sort by technician or by ticket type, and then I can sort it by different measures of efficiency over a certain amount of time. So I can see like company averages, and if I wanted to just only filter for certain things, like I didn't want to include project work, for example, I could just see the averages there and how long each technician is taking per ticket. Pretty simple, straightforward, and yeah, easy to look at, but gives you a lot.
And I think the theme too throughout everything that we've talked about, both the things we've already shipped this year, and then the things that are to come this year, like the rest of the year going into next, are all prioritized based on partner feedback. So, this report, for example, is something that our partners were asking for. They wanted to be able to monitor, like, what are my techs doing? Where are they spending their time? What could I maybe and then that'll give them ideas of where I could focus and improve a process or coach somebody, get them a skill, whatever. Same thing with this customer report that Ian is about to talk about. These are all sort of requests coming directly from our partners, and that's how we prioritize our work. So maybe, again, that's why something like UI UX is doesn't get maybe always the top focus, is because half of our partners don't care about that and half do. And so, it's a constant struggle. It might not always rise to number one when we're thinking about what we should work on.
Right. I'm going to text this guy back. UI UX doesn't matter.
Well, that's true. That's exactly what I said. UX definitely matters.
Well, okay. So Ian, you stopped sharing the screen, but I saw one of the comments that I got, and it wasn't an official question, but somebody was talking about the reports wasn't robust enough. And I couldn't get an answer as to what they meant by that. Meaning, was there not enough reports, or were they not, oh, you just took it down again.
Well, I'll show you. I mean, I can talk to it for a second. I mean, I think that over the last couple of years, we've released so many more reports. Reports are a funny thing where, short of like Power BI and having a full BI platform, everybody kind of wants a slightly different thing. So it's a little bit like whack-a-mole. It's like you build a new report and then people are like, but I want this report. Right. So we've been trying to make the new reports that we release a lot more flexible. So you can see, for example, in those two reports, that there's a lot of ways to look at it. I can show you another example.
Well, I like the fact that when you brought it up, there's so many check boxes that they can kind of get the information they're looking for by making a proper selection, I think. But
yeah, so like this is a good example, the executive summary report builder. So you can basically, I'm trying to think if there's I'm forgetting on the demo account exactly all the customers, but you can completely customize with a template all the different things that you want to put in the executive summary report. And before, we just had kind of a default listing. And so you couldn't modify what all of these different sections were. And now there's like complete customization of what exactly is showing. And okay, if this data is 0, I don't want to show this little portlet. So we've done a lot of work to make the reports better over the last couple of years. So if you haven't looked at the reports recently, there are a couple, like the internal report builder, the executive summary report builder, this audit report. Quite a few of them are pretty powerful, and I think you can do a lot. So asset audit report is one of my favorite. You can completely customize what is in this table, and you can figure it out by type. So I can just run a report here and you can see all kinds of things. So, and it's again customizable, so you can do whatever you need to do.
Okay, well, I'm going to say this right now. You just got two oohs out of me because my current executive report cannot be customized and my asset report cannot be customized. That's huge, I think.
Yep. I mean, we're making our way through it. Again, people are like, you should have this report. And so we build it. So we've made a lot of progress.
All
It's
right.
not
Well,
perfect, but
I think one of your big fans and my friend of the MSP Unplugged fame and the TechCon Unplugged conference, Paco LeBron, said the report is slick.
Thanks,
with
Paco.
Thanks, Paco.
The strong bicep showing there. Jesse just asked a question. I think we were talking about the reports. You mentioned, Power BI, and they asked, how about enabling integration with Power BI? Is that even an option? I have no idea. I've looked at Power BI once, and I said that's not for me.
Yeah, it's an option. It will take a little bit. So currently, you could technically do that. We have a public API. You could ingest the data from our API into Power BI. We have customers that have done that before. So it's been done. You can do it. It's not easy in the sense that you have to be comfortable with an API. You have to kind of do some manual work there. It is possible for us to make that easier. We haven't done it yet. We really want it. Power BI is not for everybody. I think you probably alluded to that just now. It's pretty powerful, but it's also a little bit of a learning curve. So we wanted to make sure that our native reports were up to par. And then if at some point, we want to use some external BI platform to make it so people can build all the craziest dashboards and reports, that's definitely an option in the future.
Yeah.
All right.
And this maybe goes back to like you're at, people asking for more reports, asking for, I know Jesse's not asking for it, but he's kind of asking about it. And some of maybe the UI stuff too. This comes back to me, like we have a wide, we have a lot of MSPs, and we really try to keep the platform sort of to have like a breadth of functionality, but simple. Because we know a lot of systems out there, especially if they're like two products integrated together, there's a lot of complexity there. There's a lot of like hidden things. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of time investment to like get them to work for you. And we really try to be deliberate about what we do add to the platform. And when we add it, making sure that people can use it easily and quickly. So, I think some of the reports and the configuration Ian shows sort of demonstrate that. And that's kind of an approach that we want to continue to have as well. So sometimes it's like, well, we could add this really complex, advanced, or this tool that's really advanced, but that's not really what our general partner base is looking for. Right now, they're looking for like ease of implementation. Let me get started quickly. Do a lot of the work for me because I've got other stuff to do. So.
That's what I would be. I'd be like, look, you do it, and I'll tell you if it works for me or not.
Yeah.
Let me ask, who's got the dog that wants to join the show?
Me. Okay. Did you hear the baby?
I couldn't tell if it was a dog or a baby. I thought it was a bark.
If you thought it was a dog, it was a dog.
Okay.
The baby definitely sounds like a baby.
Your wife's not going to like it. You saying that?
Oh, it's fine. She would agree. We have two dogs, so they're in a room somewhere.
Okay. All right. So let me ask this, because Emily and I kind of danced around the idea that I would take a look at Syncro here soon. But are you in a position where it would be better for me to like jump in now, knowing that there's a bunch of changes coming, or should it be like, Marv, you're a pretty, savvy MSP, and you may want to wait until Christmas time to take a look at this?
I don't know. I mean, it might depend a little bit on your requirements, but given the rundown of the stuff that's coming, I don't think there's anything. I mean, you would
Nothing
know that, but
shattering, nothing
yeah,
mind blowing.
and like we don't you don't have to like backport anything or re-implement anything when we launch functionality. I mean, we have over 4,000 partners on the platform. So we've gotten, we approach releases with the mindset that like people have implemented these features and we can't break them and we can't make them do work to adopt or change for something new. So generally speaking, you'll get the new functionality and you can decide if you want to take advantage of it or not, or like text, it just goes out and kind of, it's something that everybody wants and is just welcome, happy to have. So we don't really have that concern.
All right.
I wouldn't say you should wait. You should look at the platform. You should have your list of requirements. You should make sure it works for you and it has, what you need.
Okay. I'd like you to update with QuickBooks on the fly. Can you do that?
Yeah.
That ain't happening.
We have a QuickBooks integration.
We have a QuickBooks integration. What do you need with QuickBooks?
Oh, I have an old desktop integration and I don't know.
Use QuickBooks Desktop?
Yes.
We support that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do? I didn't think
do.
so. I thought it was just QuickBooks Online like everybody else.
Both?
Okay.
Checked another box.
I'll have to.
Is this a demo again? You tried to get a demo on the last call we had.
Listen, I'm not. If I wanted a demo, I would tell you. All right. I'm just asking questions because I get a chance to ask.
Yeah.
We may not talk again for another year or 5.
It's true.
Well, when you become a customer, we're going to be talking way more often than that.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk to Paco LeBron and see what he says, and he'll bring me on board.
We love Paco.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anything that we skipped over? My thought was to go back and say, what is like the top thing that you introduced 3 years ago that people are just finding out about since you said that?
I think every once in a while people rediscover how powerful our scripting module is.
Okay.
Our scripting module is pretty crazy.
I heard that was big. I've heard, well, that's from newer MSPs, I should say. People that have just switched over said they love the scripting.
Yes.
So it's the veterans that may not think about that, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it might be. I mean, I think it applies to any MSP, right? It's just a matter of have they stumbled across or have they needed to investigate and find that the depth of that functionality in the platform. So it could be someone who's been with us for a while and just never ventured into that area, or it could be a newer MSP who has the skills to navigate that and wants to dive deeper. So
yeah, I'd say the two things are scripting and our dynamic billing. Mm-hmm. Those are the two features that I think everyone should fully understand how they work, because I see a lot of folks that don't implement it and they're doing a lot of manual work when it can all be automated, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the scripting is something you might miss, and I think the dynamic billing is something maybe almost people assume we don't have, or like it's not possible, or they're not like expecting it, so they don't really take advantage of it. And it does save a lot of time.
Okay, so I'm trying to Google real fast so I don't have to ask, but I'm going to have to ask, what exactly do you mean by dynamic billing?
All right, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Pull my leg.
I'm not asking for a demo.
Okay. So, okay. So I've got a recurring invoice here. So I'm an MSP and I'm trying to bill a client on, say, a monthly basis for a bunch of different services, right? So I can add a line item so the normal way is you'd add a standard line item. And this is just a manual thing. So let's say I want to bill for like Office 365 or something. And I'm going to charge like $50 or like say $10 an endpoint or something like that. And I've got 100 endpoints. So great. I can add that to the template. But now, like, let's say I have a customer that, okay, they add another endpoint. Well, now I have to remember to go in here and update that from 100 to 101. Or I overbill them because they fired somebody or something like that. So instead, we have these different dynamic counters. So one is an asset counter. So I could say office, or what's a better example here that we already have in here? Sure, Bitdefender. So let's say I have Bitdefender in here and I want to bill based on how many people have that. Well, I can go and use what we call asset save searches. So in the save searches, I can say, I want to count how many assets are there that have this application installed or that are on this operating system or all kinds of things, right? You can basically build a whole filter. And then I can go in here and I can bill against that. So we have has Bitdefender, right? So now I go and add that to the template. And now what it's going to do is automatically update this quantity when the invoice is generated. So I never have to worry about, am I billing for the right number? Right? Yep. And we have all kinds of things like that. Customer contacts counter, for example, is how many contacts, how many employees work at that business. So if you bill per seat as opposed to like per endpoint, then you could use that and it's automatically going to count how many employees they have. So all kinds of things. You could bill based on per policy. So how many endpoints do they have that are in this particular policy? So there's all kinds of stuff here that basically automates the work of doing the billing and saves a bunch of time.
Okay. So nice. Sweet. Sorry, I'm thinking of things right off the top of my head where
he's digesting, he's calculating his new Syncro bill and trying to figure out when's he going to migrate. Is it going to be over Thanksgiving?
Well, that and I had looked at getting away from QuickBooks, but now I don't have to. So,
I mean, you probably should move to QuickBooks Online.
Somebody already said that earlier. I just didn't want to respond. All right. Well, folks, we are coming up to the top of the hour, so I want to be mindful of your time and thank you for joining. And we are going to do a post show. So for those of you watching, stay tuned through the exit that we do here. And let's see if there's any other questions that come up. We can ask them and entertain them in the posts. So Emily Glass, Ian Alexander, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the IT Business Podcast. Head over to itbusinesspodcast.com for all past podcast blogs and hit the follow page and select your favorite podcatcher or to be notified when we go live here on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. And oh, that was a slip, wasn't it? The IT Business Podcast is brought to you by NetAlly, your ally for network diagnostics in the channel. And the live stream is sponsored by Computers Done Right. And they are a company that is here in Southwest Florida, and they were just below where Ian made landfall. So we will have to check in on them tomorrow. I think that he already marked himself safe in his business. So we hope that they're doing well. That is going to do it for this episode. Tune in again next week. And until then, holla. And we're done. All right. That wasn't too bad, was it?
Perfectly painless.
All right. All good. Oh, here we already have somebody that has decided to join us in the post show, and we saw him in the chat earlier. My friend and yours, Mr. Prodigy Tech, Mr. MSP Unplugged, Paco LeBron.
Nice mug.
Paco, how are you? Unmute yourself, Talk. You're still unmuted.
You think I know this platform by now? I have my mic, I have my headphones. You know, what can you do? But like I like to say, better than good, better than most. How's everyone?
Good.
Good. How you doing?
I cannot complain. It's been a long one, but you know.
Yeah.
All right, Paco, you had a couple of comments. I didn't bring them all up, but you you had actually talked about the reporting when we were going through that, saying that it is top notch and that we can quote you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that. I forgot when we had Syncro last time. It was Ian and a previous member of Syncro a couple years ago. I think Jeff was still involved, and I still said it then because exactly like Ian said, like, everyone wants to report their specific way, but they don't take the time to understand what's there, to have a different, like, looking at it in an open mind, or try to understand that there's probably a better way to do it, or that they can get what they need from the reporting system. So, because I mean, I have not had any needs for certain reports, and then some of the new reports that have been shown definitely will be helping improve a lot of the stuff we're doing internally.
Nice.
Good to hear.
All right. Paco, did you have anything else that popped up? I don't know how much of the show you got to watch, if you got to watch the whole show. Anything that came up tonight that you wanted to comment on, or a question that popped up that you want to ask?
No, it's funny because I'm trying to make sure I don't say things that I shouldn't be saying on the air as well. But because I have a little bit of inside information on some stuff, so that's why
All right, we'll cut the people out and get that.
But no, I mean, I think that just in general, I think that it's from being an original, having joined in 2017 to now, you can kind of see the reinvigoration from the community about Syncro. I think is the bigger piece of that, is what I would comment on. I think that while the community was very vocal in quite a few mediums over the last maybe year and a half, 2 years, you could tell the building was happening internally and trying to make sure you get a good foundation, whether that was structure, whether that was staffing. You could just tell that, Syncro doesn't stay quiet. And the fact that they were quiet for long, it just showed that the investment and how important it was to listen to the feedback of that. So seeing everything kind of coming out now, back, quote unquote, back to how it used to be, is very interesting and refreshing to know. And then seeing familiar faces like Ian back in the fold, and seeing the leadership that Emily is doing, you could just tell that there's a lot of great stuff to come. And I think that a lot of that shows with a lot of the real major releases that we've had in the past year.
Well, thank you for saying that. We appreciate also you sticking with us. I'm sure having grown your own business, that there are periods where you have to kind of look at what's breaking, what's working, figure out a new way to scale and move forward. And then the process, sometimes processes, the people, the culture, like different aspects of the business are breaking at different times as you grow, and you have to kind of address those. So but thank you for your patience through some of the bumpy parts, and I'm sure there'll be bumpy parts again as we continue to grow. So I don't know, good problems in a way to have, but we also appreciate our partners keeping us through that as well.
So I was going to ask, when you were out on leave, Ian, did they know you were coming back? I mean, I think that was a thing where people thought, oh, Ian's gone, it must be, time to blow it up or something.
No,
I never heard that. I wish I would have known. I would have put out an announcement.
No, I mean, I wasn't exactly on vacation, but it was nice to get a little refresher, because I've been doing this for a long time. So it was interesting coming back with a fresh perspective, even if I was tired. Tired
from the baby.
Yes.
Not
very tired from the baby. But that wasn't never really in question.
All right. So going back to Paco being there from the very beginning. So I had a conversation with Mike Smith, who is a podcaster that a lot of us know, who is a small business, who just recently, joined Syncro after a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth. And he came in from a different perspective because he did not see any of the issues, only because he's not using a lot of the stuff. He's just starting, and he likes the simplicity of it. And the stuff that he is using, just works, which is what a lot of us like. So I think it's kind of interesting to see both sides, from somebody who's just starting out to somebody like Paco, who's been with you the entire time and hasn't jumped ship. And despite bringing on, John Dubisky a couple of times, who would try new tools every other month, you didn't fall into that trap.
So it's funny you say that. So we had this conversation with Andy at TechCon. And I don't know if he's reported back internally, but I can kind of admit it here. But my phrase has always been that I'm a lifer at Syncro. I've been on many online forums. I've said that because of how it has helped me scale from not only a part-time business owner to a full-time business owner to a business owner with now 6 employees, 7 including myself. But in the last probably 3-4 months when John came on, we were having, and I even talked to Ian a little bit about this before he went on paternity leave, on trying to how to better manage a remote team. So for everyone that doesn't know, next year will be 10 years that we've been in business, but I've only had employees now going on 3 years. So it was a big adjustment to know, from going from 7 years of doing it myself in a certain way to trying to create the efficiencies, the transparencies of everything the last couple of years. And it's been a little bit difficult, which John Dubinski over at, who formerly of the Maven Group, is now helping me out at Prodigy Techs get through that, right? And efficiency reports have been a big thing, and just a lot of small quality of life updates were what was really missing at the time. So 3 months ago, we actually were looking at other PSAs and such, which is probably the first time that Emily and Ian are hearing this. But what's interesting enough,
Andy and me are like this.
So
not the first time.
We called that night from the conference.
We talked about your ears should be burning every day, Paco. We talked about it.
And so what was interesting is, because, and as everyone knows, I have a great relationship with Syncro, it was a matter of give us a few. And what was important to understand is that, and Andy will talk about, Andy Cormier, for those that know I'm referring to, they released a lot of small updates over the last couple of weeks, but they were so impactful for my team. One of them being, an email communication coming in, who's replying, who's actually creating this comment and ticket. Like, that was a huge issue for my office coordinator and my customer success manager to try and track down who said what. So that was huge. Being able to have the ability of assigning default labor items had the ability for us to now, for my remote techs, knowing that we're not billing the wrong item. That's one less thing that my office coordinator has to audit. Being able to have the ability of assigning, and now, because before you used to be able to assign yourself to a ticket, now you can assign the proper people who are involved in the ticket. And now you're getting the actual updates of what's going on. Now there's the transparency, the efficiency. So these 3 items that were, according to Andy, quick hits, but I'm everyone thinks software is easy, and that's, all MSPs think that. But it was these 3 items alone is what we, like 80% of what we were dealing with. And we stopped. We stopped the trials, we stopped the, and we went back on. Now, granted, like you said, John motivated this, because me, I'm a curmudgeon and I like to stick through and try and figure out what it is. But it was one of those where I was falling in love with the product, but my team was struggling with it. And I had to make a business decision, but it was into the point where having that relationship, and this is where I go back to talking on my own podcast, is that having a partnership with the vendor is what's important. You don't want a vendor, you want a partner, and being able to have it and understanding it's a 2-way street. You have to support them monetary wise, resources, feedbacks, in a constructive way. And in turn, they're going to invest in you, is what happened here. Right. And I don't want to say that they came out with it for me. I mean, this is probably the plans, and this is stuff. It was one of those where, hey, you've been patient, give us a little bit, and the patience paid off. Right. And so now we're able to do a lot more. And especially now with the reporting that just came out, or I'm sorry, the reporting that was displayed in the screenshot, in the screen share, it's now going to be something that's going to be impactful for us when that does come out. And it'll be really efficient for those that are running a team and trying to get the most out of the platform.
Dude, we should be paying you.
So I will say this, you know, I'm kind of like Paco where I am loyal, but I do look around, and I haven't been in a situation where I've sensed that the time is right to make the change, but I'm aware that that time may be coming soon. One of the differences that I've seen in Syncro, and Ian, this goes back to you when you were at, Repair Tech and doing Repair Shopper and Capoodle, you were always listening to the people that used your product. And there are a lot of vendors in this industry that they say they listen, but they don't. And that has always been something that you've done. And from what I can tell, Emily, that is how you are. And I'll be honest, as a CEO, to be doing that and not just giving up lip service, but actually, it's almost like you're in the trenches as well. So from the outside
Or
looking
I
in,
am. Or I'm not. It's not like I am. I actually am.
okay,
Yeah.
but from an outside person looking in, that is a huge thing to look at and notice. And I almost appreciate it without even having, ordered the product yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true of Ian. He's been like that since again, I haven't worked with him before the last year, but I've seen it in the last year and I've heard people talk about it. And I know it's been true for his entire history here. So definitely, he really, like I said, understands the product and he understands the people who are using it every day. So, and he listens. He's in every community. You would hate to see, or you would be scared to see how many Slack integrations and messages we have coming in, and the kinds of vigorous debates we have internally on every Reddit post or Facebook post or whatever. And I'd like to think I had a small hand in reinvigorating that internally coming in. And a lot of it I have to say is in my training at Datto, to give credit where credit's due. I ran the support team there and grew it. I was that was just part of the ethos at Datto too. I was dealing with support tickets. I was talking to partners every day. Austin would get an angry email forwarded to me, be like, "You get on the phone with this person," or like, "You figure this out." So I have, ingrained in me that if there's a Reddit post or a Facebook post, some people, some vendors, some teams might think like, oh, 100 messages a day, like whatever, everyone's angry today or whatever. I don't take that approach at all. I think we need to listen. Every piece of feedback is like someone who took the time to send us that, and that's their honest perspective, and that's how they're feeling. So, we don't have to necessarily respond one-to-one to every single like angry post. We can make a little bit of a choice, but we do listen. We do discuss it internally, and we do decide like what to do about that and internalize it. So yeah, I think that's really important.
And I'll just say it because Emily probably won't. To her credit, from like day one, she went and she'll read like NPS feedback, for example, and she'll go and call the customer, the MSP, and she'll get on the phone with them. And I think not a lot of CEOs do that. So I think that's pretty important too, right? It's one thing for me to do it, that's what I should be doing. But I think when you have other leaders doing that, including your CEO, it's really important.
Yeah, I even have people at the company that complain. They're like, "Why are you reading this, or why are you commenting on this angry thing over here internally?" And I'm like, this is how you build a culture. This is how you listen to people. Like, if you don't do this, what are you doing? What are you listening to if you're not listening to this? And a lot of people think it's like distracting. I've heard that term, like, "Oh, these are distractions." I'm like, no. These are our customers who are talking to us. None of this is a distraction. This is reality for someone, and we need to like figure out what we're going to do with it. We might decide to, ignore it if we feel like it's not valid, or if that's, maybe the right approach, but usually that's not the right answer. Usually the answer is like, no, we didn't have a good FAQ for them, so they got really frustrated, or, that was really hard to find in the product. Like, we should, do a blog post on that if we can't fix the UI today. There's always something that we can do to help someone or learn from it, and then prevent, future tickets or frustration. So it's a learning opportunity.
All right. So, Paco, let me ask this. What are like the top things, I was going to say top 3 things that you like about Syncro, but and if you had to just put, something together as to say, this is the reason I'm staying in terms of the features and integrations and stuff, what would they be?
So I definitely will say the scripting is a huge part of being able to do what we need to do and automate, right? I forgot the phrase Al Appier over at CyberGuard used to say. It's like if it takes 5 hours, it takes 5 tries, and it's 5 tickets, you need to automate it or something to that phrase. I'll have to find it that he put it on there. So whenever I try to find something to automate, I try to look and see, all right, what do I need to get through, whether it's, a new alert that I'm trying to put through or a new piece of software that I'm trying to find out where, because for me, my technician should only be deploying either they sign into Microsoft 365 on the PC through Endpoint Manager. Obviously, all their Office apps should go, but then everything security-wise should be deployed through the Syncro installer. So how do I go ahead and automate that process to, enabling BitLocker, ensuring that the encryption key is stored offsite, into the field to then have that visible to eyeball it. How do we make sure that the particular power settings are done so that we can initiate the initial patches on that system, things of that nature. So scripting has been really huge, especially when script variables came out a couple years ago. That's what makes it even more valuable, because now you're not limited to whatever the scripts are that a vendor, such as a backup vendor or another type of vendor for their scripting. If they have a key that's involved, now you can pop the key into the play. And if you know a little bit of PowerShell scripting, and even they have some of the not instructions, but a guideline of how you can actually do that. And there's plenty of YouTube videos on the Syncro page to do that. You now have the ability of flexibility of making sure that you can have identified by eyeball keys to particular clients and being able to deploy those in an automated fashion. So scripting is one. I would have to say that believe it or not, the appointment scheduler is probably the second feature that helps us out.
Really?
Because so the reason why I say that is because the ability of being able to have, my office coordinator look at the schedule, understand what's going on. She's not managing Outlook calendars to try and figure out. You can sync the calendars inside of the team calendar inside of in Syncro, and from there you can manage who has what appointments, and going into the ability of, all right, well, this user is not going to be available to this time, and now you're going back and forth between the ticket, and now you're not having to go ahead and move into the ability of going into multiple panes. You have one pane of glass per se. The funny phrase of everyone wants a single pane of the glass, but it's a pane of, so that's kind of where that has helped alleviate that process for my office coordinator and then my customer success manager when she's probably running her systems out. Last two really quick will be probably the tray icon agent, allowing to have a user create their ticket, including a screenshot, fairly easily. Lowers our email count and our email support queue because it's already assigned to the asset, it's already assigned to the ticket. I have a lot of the automation. There's a lot of less manual work to be done from that. And the amount of stuff you can throw in there is, if people have been super creative on running scripts, running information, things of that nature. So that's been pretty powerful for us. And then probably Mailer. There's a lot to be desired with Mailer, but it allows us to create a CSAT, or a customer survey, a satisfaction survey, to be able to understand how we did, and understanding and getting a pulse for that client, and then kind of moving forward with that on an automated basis when a ticket closure occurs. So I would say those four are probably the bigger ones that I can think of as far as quick hits for right now. I'm sure there are others, but that's kind of what I see for myself, just managing, but also working some of those tickets as well and communicating those out.
All right. I was reviewing my list because even though I knew you guys did IT Glue, Lifecycle Insights, my mind was really caught when I saw the Domotz integration in there, because I'm a big Domotz user, 365, and of course now QuickBooks, which is my bad for not noticing it before.
There's a lot in there.
There is.
Median's point for him.
So let me ask you this, Marvin.
Yes.
Because I know moving PSAs is a huge pain. right? And that's, you got your whole lifeblood inside of it, right? So you can't make the jump fairly just, I'm going to do this to do this. What are you worried the most about moving? Because I would imagine the PSA is your biggest concern, right? Or is it the RMM that's your biggest concern on moving?
So it's more the baked inness of it. So right now, my RMM, my antivirus, my web protection or DNS protection. I also have a HIPAA security risk analyzer. All of that is built in to my RMM platform right now. So when I looked at Syncro years ago, the thing for me was, okay, if I switch from the RMM to Syncro, yes, I save money there, but now I have to add back the antivirus. I have to add back the web protection. I have to add back the built-in backup. I'm using a lot of the built-in backup. That's as well. So when I looked at the numbers, yes, I was saving money, but it was only, I think it was like $150 a month. And for me at the time, it's like, okay, is it worth it for me to make all those changes to save $150 when I have to go in and I mentioned the dashboards being, having to go out to all these different dashboards. To me, it was worth the $150 to stay and have all of that in my single pane of glass. But I'm also at the point now where I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe, if there are all these other like the OS patching that was not there before. There were some other things that weren't there. And that's why I say it's a matter of time for me is, okay, as that stuff starts to come in, now it's much more of a consideration.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I'm sorry, go ahead, Emily.
Oh, I was just going to say, I understand that the cost, is not always the main motivator for folks. I think certainly in the economic times we're seeing today, it is becoming more of a motivation for some folks. We try to make sure we keep it affordable, but that's where it comes back to. For me, it comes back to, and why I emphasize with the team, like listening, because we might not have it today. Right, we might not have we don't have to check all the boxes for everybody looking at the platform today, but we are going to keep going, and we're going to keep listening, and we're going to keep adding the stuff that people want. So we'll look at it. If we don't have everything, that's okay. We will, because we are listening, and that's how we prioritize what we do. So and our goal is to be a complete platform and stay affordable. So we're going to find ways to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, IT glue integration, which you have, I have that directly in the backup and recovery. I was just looking at my dashboard to see what else is there.
So what I was going to say as well is, what I would take into account, and this is just, kind of pushing you over the, closer to the edge, is, there are other functions inside of Syncro that could make it cost effective. Maybe you're not, as far as not the 150 on the RMM side, but billing, being able to do it all inside of the platform. So like us, we do all of our billing inside of Syncro, and it integrates into QuickBooks. So now I don't have to send the invoices out from.
You can't see that scribble, but dynamic billing.
Yeah.
It's got
so
a
that's
star next to it.
Yeah. So that's huge. And so, even being able to, and so, that dynamic billing will be even more powerful when you have some of the other vendors integrating inside of it as well, depending on what vendor you use. But that has been huge just on a life cycle process where going through the ticket, understanding that there's a failed, hard drive system. We see the age of the computer. We go ahead and quote them through the estimate. They approve the estimate. It now goes into the invoice. It gets paid. Now we can go through the purchase order. Now we go into there. We schedule the appointment. So being able to do all that inside of the platform itself can prove to be helpful man hours, or labor hours, I should say, to correct myself. Labor hours, and it may be more beneficial to moving some of the other systems that you have to integrate inside of that piece too. So,
well, the dynamic billing alone, I can tell you this: my office assistant, my wife, spends a lot of times creating invoices only to have them sit for me to review before they go out. And this would, save us probably that 150 easy in terms of money there. So
And on Thursday night, you're going out to dinner. You're not reviewing invoices.
don't you have to say that.
There's also another tool, I'll talk to you about it out there too, Marv, that integrates with Syncro that saved me quite a bit as well.
Okay.
On that will probably help Kim to help with
All
that billing as well. Once you get the dynamic billing going as well, this other thing supplement to it that integrates inside of it will help out with that.
Okay. Well, while we're still in the air, let me ask one last question of Emily. What has been the biggest thing that has either been brought up to you or complained about in your year?
Biggest is a very generic, broad term.
Trying to give you a lot of leeway there.
I'll interpret biggest how I like. The biggest thing that is recurring, and now, and we've dedicated a lot of time to, and we're going to continue to, is platform reliability.
Okay.
And that also is a broad answer because that's a bunch of different things. But for, it goes back to moving from Heroku, goes back to security functionality and features that we're adding and protections. And a lot of the improvements we're going to make for the coming year, single sign-on, like that kind of stuff. All of these things are like table stakes for me. We need to invest in those things. I don't want to have a platform that just has like a pretty UI and some cool features if we don't have that as the foundation. That's why we spent a lot of time on it this year. We're going to continue to spend a ton of time on it. Some vendors or some people might think it's table stakes. For me, I think it's where you save time because you don't have to put tickets in or wonder like what happened. You get trust in the platform, right? That it's going to do what you set up it for, what you set it up to do, or what you're relying on it to do. And I think that's the foundation of having a trusting relationship with our partners, is that the product does what it says it's going to do. So I'd rather have fewer features or less pretty UI in the short term, and fix all of those things to set us up and our partners up to have a solid foundation to build on top of. So, like Paco alluded to, the last, 12, 24 months have been a bit bumpier, but that's, one of the main things that we've been focused on, getting our feet under us and having a solid platform to build on top of. And that's been the biggest thing that comes that I hear that pains me the most, is when there's these like recurring issues or instability, or a feature that breaks over and over again and some fragility. Those are the things that really get me upset, or that are big issues for me, because those shouldn't be issues for anybody, right? We shouldn't be in a position that those things are cropping up, and our partner shouldn't be in a position to have to report or deal with those things and those pains. So I want to get us through that.
All right. So Ian, I asked her the last question. Do you want the last word?
Sure.
Oh, you got it. There you go. Well, that was your word.
Thanks for having us on. We're always happy to chat. If anybody wants to chat with either of us, they can email me directly, ian@syncromsp.com.
Yeah, me too.
I'm always happy to call.
CEO@syncromsp.com. I read every email. I have no EA. So sad.
Still, I told you should
I know.
be working on that.
I know, I'm working on it.
All right. So, folks, I'm going to have a link in the show notes to all of this. You're going to have a direct link to the Syncro page, and I'm going to throw this in the chat for those of you that watched the show all the way through. Congratulations. Thank you. And it is going to be a link to go over and sign up for your demo, like Emily has told me to do over and over again, and find out what you're missing in the world of Syncro. That's going to do it for our show this evening. Paco, thank you for hopping on the post show. Emily and Ian, we're going to chat right after I kick people out here. And that's it. If I could find my stuff here so I can end off the show. We're out, folks. See y'all later.